For my final project for environmental science, I wanted to answer the question, how effective is solar energy at increasing renewable energy usage? I found this interesting since my family has had solar panels on our roof for multiple years, even before COVID. To answer this question, I analyzed my household year-round energy data and compared it to the national statistics and peer-reviewed research on residential energy consumption. In 2025, my four-person household generated 4,502 kilowatt hours of solar energy while consuming a total of 12,265 kilowatt hours of energy, meaning we only took 7,763 kilowatt hours from the grid. In 2022, the average American home purchased 10,791 kilowatt hours annually. We purchased nearly 3,000 fewer. That's a 28% reduction in grid electricity purchases. But here's a crucial distinction. Solar offsets approximately 37% of our total energy consumption. I will be the first to admit that we have higher than average energy usage, partially due to my mom working from home, but I believe the proof is in the pudding. That solar is useful since it has done so much to offset our energy usage for relatively little cost and limiting our usage of non-renewable energy sources. A lot of this is due to us installing batteries in 2022 to let us store power. This serves two purposes of not only powering the house, but saving us money since it lets us use grid power when it's cheap and save solar power for when it gets more expensive, such as when it starts getting dark. Not only helping us save the environment, but save money in the process. Here's where solar's limitations become obvious. Look at the seasonal pattern. In January, we generated only 292 kilowatt hours of solar while using 769 kilowatt hours. December was even worse, 234 kilowatt hours generated versus 700 kilowatt hours purchased. But flip to July, we generated 597 kilowatt hours while only needing 620 from the grid. This, in my opinion, highlights the issues with solar, specifically being in the winter and on cloudy days. I believe it has proved useful for our household, especially for the limited cost in the long haul. But in my opinion, it still demonstrates the issues with just using solar as a main source of power. Of course, we aren't using solar as a main source of power. We still have access to the grid. And if you want to do renewable, you could use other sources of power, for example, wind power, to pick up the slack on shorter days, cloud coverage, and lower sun angles mean solar generation plummets precisely when households use the most energy around the winter and during holidays. Electricity use spikes during the holidays. As you can see, my household experienced this firsthand. Winter energy consumption spiked due to everyone being at home during winter break, exactly as the research predicted. Academic research on residential energy consumption confirms what my data shows. According to studies analyzing 93 million American households, residential energy use accounts for roughly 20% of greenhouse gas emissions. This research also reveals something critical. Grid decarbonization alone won't solve this problem. The target requires a portfolio approach, using solar energy, energy storage, and behavior changes. My household demonstrates this. We didn't just install solar and call it solved. We added battery storage to best meet demand across seasons. We also are trying to be conscious about our consumption by turning off lights and unplugging chargers when not in use. Solar doesn't exist in just a vacuum. It works best with intentionally done changes when it comes to infrastructure and behavior. I believe this is something that needs to be highlighted since some people love to paint renewables as inefficient because it isn't as consistent as something like coal or oil, but I believe it just highlights why it is so important to make use of multiple sources of energy, which I believe is only strengthened by what we've seen this year with the Iran war cutting off a good chunk of the world's oil supply, making it hard to get oil across the world and causing shortages in multiple countries. So how effective is solar at decreasing non-renewable energy usage? Based on my data and the research I found, solar is effective, but only part of the solution. My house proves that you can reduce grid purchases by over a third with just solar energy and a battery. And that matters enormously when residential energy drives a fifth of US emissions, but we still have issues when it came to production in the winter, and after that, we still purchased 7,762 kilowatt hours from the grid. We still couldn't 100% offset with solar alone. The most effective strategy, in my unprofessional opinion, obviously I'm a student, combines different renewables and clean energy sources like solar, geothermal, and nuclear energy with battery storage and grid connection for balancing. For example, if you have a huge blizzard in Texas, you would need to draw power from elsewhere. Solar decreases non-renewable energy usage significantly, but it's only one tool in the necessary toolkit, not the entire solution. The good news, that toolkit is becoming more accessible, with plug-in solar finally becoming legal in a bunch of states across the US. Battery prices are also becoming cheaper, and households willing to combine these technologies can measurably shrink their carbon footprint while maintaining modern energy comfort.